Have you ever pondered why our skeletons, which are supposed to be sturdy and robust, can sometimes become soft and bendy? Welcome to today's discussion on rickets, a disorder that affects bone development in children. Rickets, a name that might sound a bit peculiar, is far from being an amusing subject. It's a condition that interferes with the normal development and hardening of bones in children, resulting in soft and deformed bones. Picture a young sapling, meant to grow tall and strong, but instead, it bends under the weight of its own leaves. That's the kind of impact rickets can have on a child's body. But what causes it? What signs should we look out for? How can it be treated or even prevented? These are questions we'll dive into, unraveling the complex layers of this bone disorder. So fasten your seatbelts, folks. Join us as we unravel the mysteries of rickets in this episode. So, what exactly is rickets? A childhood disorder that affects bone development, rickets is a condition we need to understand better. Rickets is a skeletal disorder primarily affecting children whose bones are still growing. It's characterized by soft, weak bones that can lead to deformities like bowed legs, thickened wrists and ankles, and a pigeon chest. But what causes these abnormalities? The answer lies in a delicate blend of nutrients: vitamin D, calcium, and phosphate. These elements play a critical role in maintaining healthy bones. Let's start with vitamin D. This nutrient is essential for our bodies to absorb calcium from the foods we eat. When our bodies don't get enough vitamin D, they struggle to absorb enough calcium, leading to low levels in the bloodstream. This is where phosphate enters the scene. Phosphate is another mineral that works in tandem with calcium. Together they form calcium phosphate, a compound that gives bones their strength and rigidity. When there's a shortage of calcium in the bloodstream, our bodies respond by releasing a hormone called parathyroid hormone. This hormone draws calcium out of the bones to maintain necessary blood calcium levels. However, this process can weaken the bones, leading to the soft and fragile bones characteristic of rickets. So where does the vitamin D come from? Our bodies can create vitamin D when our skin is exposed to sunlight. We can also get it from certain foods like fatty fish, beef liver, and egg yolks. But sometimes, despite eating the right foods or spending time in the sun, our bodies can't absorb or process these nutrients properly. This can lead to a deficiency, which in turn can cause rickets. Understanding the interplay between vitamin D, calcium, and phosphate helps us see why these nutrients are so vital. They work together to keep our bones strong and healthy. When one or more of these elements is lacking, it can disrupt the balance, leading to conditions like rickets. As we see, rickets is a complex condition tied to various elements essential for our bone health. Now that we understand what rickets is, let's delve into what causes this disorder. The primary cause of rickets is a deficiency in vitamin D. Now you may be wondering, why is vitamin D so important? Well, vitamin D plays a crucial role in our bodies. It helps our bodies absorb calcium and phosphate from the food we eat. These minerals are essential for the growth and maintenance of strong and healthy bones. When there's a lack of vitamin D, these minerals are not adequately absorbed, leading to soft and weak bones, a characteristic feature of rickets. But where do we get this all-important vitamin D from? The main source is sunlight. When our skin is exposed to sunlight, our bodies naturally produce vitamin D. However, if we don't get enough sunlight, perhaps due to living in regions with less sunlight or staying indoors too much, our bodies may not produce sufficient vitamin D. Additionally, certain diets, particularly those lacking in fish, eggs, and vitamin D fortified foods, may also lead to a deficiency. Apart from vitamin D deficiency, a lack of dietary calcium or phosphate can also cause rickets. These minerals are crucial for bone health, and a deficiency can lead to weak bones and skeletal deformities. It's worth noting that this is less common than vitamin D deficiency rickets, but it's still a potential cause. Lastly, let's talk about genetics. Certain genetic conditions can interfere with the body's ability to process vitamin D, or the minerals calcium and phosphate. These conditions are inherited, and often result in a type of rickets that appears in infancy or early childhood. So, to sum it up, rickets is primarily caused by a lack of vitamin D, calcium, or phosphate, whether through dietary deficiency, insufficient sunlight exposure, or certain genetic conditions. Evidently, rickets can be caused by a variety of factors mainly revolving around nutritional deficiencies and genetic factors. Moving on, one might wonder, what are the symptoms of rickets and how is it diagnosed? Well, the signs of rickets often start subtly, sometimes even going unnoticed at first. But in time, they can become more pronounced and serious. One of the most common symptoms is delayed growth. This is because rickets affects the growth plates at the ends of a child's bones, causing them to develop abnormally. This can result in a child growing slower than their peers, or even not growing at all for a period of time. Another common symptom of rickets is pain, particularly in the spine, pelvis, and legs. The affected bones can become tender or painful, especially when touched or put under pressure. This can lead to children avoiding physical activities or movement due to discomfort, which in turn can exacerbate the condition. Muscle weakness is another hallmark of rickets. This can manifest as difficulty in standing or walking or a general lack of strength. In severe cases, it can even lead to the development of skeletal deformities such as bowed legs or a curved spine. Now, diagnosing rickets isn't always straightforward, as its symptoms can mimic other conditions. However, there are a number of tests that can help confirm a diagnosis. A physical examination is usually the first step, where a doctor will look for the telltale signs of rickets, such as tender or deformed bones. Blood tests are also commonly used to measure the levels of calcium, phosphate, and vitamin D in the body, which can provide clues about the underlying cause of the condition. In some cases, X-rays may be used to look at the bones in more detail. They can reveal abnormalities in the growth plates or other signs of rickets, such as thinning or softening of the bones. With a keen eye for these symptoms and appropriate diagnostic tests, rickets can be identified and treated in a timely manner. Armed with knowledge about the causes and symptoms of rickets, we now turn our attention to its treatment and prevention. Treatment for rickets primarily revolves around replacing the deficient nutrients in the body. This often involves changes to the diet, as well as the introduction of specific supplements. For instance, a diet rich in vitamin D and calcium is essential. Foods like fatty fish, liver, eggs, and dairy products can help replenish these nutrients. Supplements can also be a useful tool in addressing this deficiency. Vitamin D supplements in particular can be incredibly beneficial. In more severe cases where bone deformities have occurred, surgery may be required. These procedures aim to correct the bone abnormalities and improve mobility. However, surgery is typically considered a last resort, once dietary changes and supplements have proven insufficient. Prevention, as they say, is better than cure. A balanced diet rich in vitamin D and calcium is key to preventing rickets. This includes foods like dairy products, green leafy vegetables, and certain types of fish. But let's not forget the role of sunlight in our body's ability to produce vitamin D. Regular, safe exposure to sunlight can be a natural preventive measure against rickets. But what does safe sun exposure mean? It's about balance. While too little sun can lead to vitamin D deficiency, too much can increase the risk of skin cancer. So, aim for a few minutes of sun exposure on the face, arms, and legs, without sunscreen, a few times a week. In addition to diet and sun exposure, regular exercise can also help maintain healthy bones. Weight-bearing activities like walking, running, or playing sports can be particularly beneficial. While rickets can be a daunting condition, with the right treatment and preventive measures, it is possible to combat this disorder. As we wrap up our discussion, let's quickly revisit the key points we've covered today. We delved into the world of rickets, a bone disorder primarily caused by a lack of vitamin D, calcium, or phosphate. It's a condition that affects the growth and development of bones in children, leading to pain, skeletal abnormalities, and in severe cases, complications such as skeletal deformities. We talked about the causes, which range from dietary deficiencies to certain medical conditions that affect how the body absorbs these vital nutrients. We highlighted the symptoms, such as delayed growth, pain in the bones, and muscle weakness, which can help in early detection and diagnosis. We discussed the treatments available, from changes in diet and lifestyle to medication and, in some instances, surgery. Preventive measures are equally important, including adequate sunlight exposure and maintaining a diet rich in the necessary nutrients. Thank you for joining us in this comprehensive discussion on rickets. Remember, knowledge is the first step towards prevention and treatment. Stay informed, stay healthy.